A Journey of Courage. Chapter 1. A Day of Celebration. On a vibrant summer afternoon, the small coastal town of Azure Bay was alive with the sounds of celebration. The grand hall of the Azure Bay Community Center was adorned with white roses and golden streamers for the wedding of Leela Thompson's cousin, Emma. Leela, a 27-year-old artist with a passion for capturing life's fleeting moments on canvas, stood among the crowd, her auburn hair catching the sunlight streaming through the tall windows. The air was filled with laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the upbeat rhythm of a live band playing classic love songs. Friends and family danced, their joy contagious, and Leela couldn't help but smile as she twirled with her best friend, Sophie, on the dance floor. Amid the festivities, Leela's eyes caught a figure standing apart from the revelry. He was leaning against a pillar in the corner, a tall man with jet-black hair and a quiet demeanor. His deep green eyes scanned the room, pausing on Leela more than once. She noticed his reserved nature. He didn't dance, didn't mingle, just observed with a faint, thoughtful smile. Intrigued but unsure, Leela brushed it off, returning to the warmth of the celebration. The day ended in a blur of happiness, but the memory of the quiet stranger lingered in her mind. Chapter 2. A Curious Connection. 3 days later, Leela's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Hi, Leela. I saw you at Emma's wedding. You were radiant. I'd love to get to know you." Ethan. Her heart skipped a beat. She didn't recognize the name, but curiosity got the better of her. "Who is this?" she replied. The response was quick. "Ethan, the guy from the corner at the wedding. I couldn't stop watching you. Would you be open to talking?" Leela's cheeks flushed. She remembered the man with the green eyes, his quiet presence standing out in the lively crowd. Hesitant but intrigued, she agreed to chat. Their conversations began innocently, texts about favorite books, music, and dreams. Ethan was a writer, working on his first novel, and his words were poetic, thoughtful, and kind. He made Leela laugh with witty anecdotes and touched her heart with stories of his travels. Each message felt like a brushstroke, painting a picture of a man who seemed to understand her in ways she hadn't expected. Weeks passed and their connection deepened. They talked daily, sometimes late into the night. Ethan's messages were a blend of charm and sincerity, and Leela found herself looking forward to them. One evening, as they discussed their hopes for the future, Ethan sent a message that stopped her cold. "Leela, I know this might sound sudden, but I feel like you're the one I've been searching for. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me?" Leela stared at her phone, her heart racing. They hadn't even met in person since the wedding, only exchanging words through screens. "Ethan, this is so fast. We barely know each other," she replied, her fingers trembling. His response was immediate. "I know it's crazy, but I feel it in my soul. You're my home. Please trust me. I'll spend my life making you happy." His words were a melody, pulling at her heartstrings. Against her better judgment, Leela felt a spark of belief in his sincerity. After days of reflection, she said yes. Chapter 3. A Whirlwind Beginning. The wedding was small, held in a quaint garden overlooking the sea. Leela wore a simple ivory dress, her hair adorned with wildflowers, while Ethan stood tall in a navy suit, his eyes never leaving her. Their vows were heartfelt, promising love and loyalty under the open sky. Leela's family, though surprised by the speed of their union, supported her, charmed by Ethan's warmth. Sophie, ever the skeptic, pulled Leela aside. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered. Leela nodded, her heart full. "He feels right," she said. The early months of marriage were a dream. Ethan was attentive, leaving handwritten notes on her easel, surprising her with picnics by the beach and praising her latest paintings. They rented a cozy cottage in Azure Bay, where Leela set up her art studio and Ethan worked on his novel. Life felt like a canvas painted with vibrant colors, full of promise and love. Chapter 4. Shadows of Doubt. But as autumn arrived, subtle changes crept in. Ethan began spending long hours at a local cafe, claiming he needed solitude to write. He'd return home distracted, his once constant chatter replaced by silence. Leela noticed he guarded his phone, angling it away when she was near. At first, she dismissed it as stress from his writing, but the distance grew. Their evenings, once filled with shared stories, became quiet, and Ethan's compliments dwindled. One rainy night, Ethan left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. A notification lit up the screen, a message from someone named Mia. Curiosity battled with trust, and curiosity won. Leela unlocked the phone and scrolled through the messages. Her stomach dropped. The texts were intimate, filled with pet names and promises of secret meetings. Mia was someone from Ethan's past, a woman he'd known before moving to Azure Bay. The words "I miss you" and "you're my everything" burned into Leela's mind. When Ethan emerged, towel around his waist, Leela held up the phone, her voice trembling. "Who is Mia?" Ethan's face paled. "It's not what you think," he stammered. "She's just a friend. I didn't want to upset you." Leela's tears fell. "You lied to me, Ethan. You promised me forever." He apologized profusely, claiming it was a moment of weakness, a mistake he'd never repeat. Leela, torn between her love for him and her shattered trust, agreed to try again, for the sake of the life they'd built and the child they'd just learned they were expecting. Chapter 5. A Fragile Truce. For a while, things improved. Ethan was attentive again, helping prepare for their baby, a girl they named Ivy. Leela threw herself into motherhood and her art, hopping to mend the cracks in their marriage. But as Ivy turned one, the old patterns returned. Ethan's late nights resumed, and Leela caught glimpses of messages he tried to hide. Her heart ached, but she clung to hope, not wanting to disrupt Ivy's world. One evening, while walking home from the market, Leela saw Ethan's car parked outside a diner. Through the window, she saw him with Mia, their hands intertwined, laughing as if the world belonged only to them. The sight shattered her. She stood frozen, rain soaking her clothes as the truth settled in. Ethan hadn't changed. That night, Leela confronted him. "I saw you with her," she said, her voice steady despite the pain. Ethan's excuses were weak, his apologies hollow. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he said. Leela shook her head. "You chose this, Ethan. You chose her over us." With Ivy asleep in her crib, Leela made the hardest decision of her life. She packed a bag, gathered her daughter, and left for her sister's house across town. Chapter 6. Rebuilding Strength. Leela's sister, Nora, welcomed her with open arms. Over cups of tea, Leela poured out her story, tears mixing with determination. Nora urged her to stay with Ethan for Ivy's sake, but Leela knew she couldn't. "I need to show Ivy what strength looks like," she said. "I need to show her we deserve better." The divorce was painful but necessary. Leela moved with Ivy to a small apartment in a nearby city where she found work teaching art classes. The days were long and the nights were lonely, but Leela grew stronger. She painted again, her canvases filled with bold strokes of resilience and hope. Ivy's laughter became her anchor, a reminder of why she'd left. Chapter 7. A New Horizon. 2 years later, Leela stood in a gallery, her paintings on display. The room buzzed with admirers and Sophie beamed at her side. "You did it, Leela," she said. Leela smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in years. She'd learned to trust herself, to value her worth, and to build a life for her and Ivy filled with love and authenticity. One evening, a gallery visitor approached, a kind-eyed man named Caleb, who admired her work and asked about the stories behind her paintings. Their conversations grew, much like they had with Ethan, but this time, Leela was cautious, letting trust build slowly. Caleb respected her pace, and over time, a new kind of love blossomed, one rooted in honesty and mutual respect. Leela's journey wasn't easy, but it taught her that courage meant choosing herself, even when it hurt. She looked at Ivy, now 4, giggling as she painted beside her, and knew she'd made the right choice. Life wasn't perfect, but it was hers, painted with the colors of strength, hope, and love.